what's up YouTube? Today I bring you one of the craziest crafting stories I've ever heard. And we're probably going to be hearing a lot more of these crafting stories because with the new crafting methods that GGG has given with their wonderful vision, right now pretty much everything revolves around RNG and YOLO Exalt Slamming if you really want to make a truly legendary item. And this is the case with this item. This is an item I thought would never exist this league. And I'm actually still quite in shock when someone showed me this item. They actually linked it to me. And I was like, oh, you made an 11 link or 12 link claw. And now this claw is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But just the fact that someone could get it to this stage is pretty amazing. Especially without remove non-influence, add influence. And you can't really use the Og crafts on the Hoarder crafting station. So it's kind of a huge luck. Now, someone could probably remake this if they had enough money, but it would cost a fortune. But this is the claw in question. It is called Havoc Fane Imperial Claw, and I'm going to go over how the crafting method was done. And it's going to be a pretty short video, pretty much because the crafting method was insanely fast. Now, this is pretty much it. He has me doing it for meter service currently. I'm not really sure how much it is for meter service, but this is actually a near perfect claw outside of the fact that it doesn't have the crit chance. And we're going to go over why that may not be super important. But as you can see here, this is the claw. It is an 11 link claw. Now, as I said, someone in chat linked me the 11 link claw they crafted. And I actually had to type in their name. I did /whois, and this is the person, I think. He was actually just telling me about how he was actually crafting it. And just by judging by this statement right here, you can see that he actually did get insanely lucky. And this is me when I saw the claw. I was like, oh my goodness, someone actually made something worth mirroring this league. And as you saw from my previous video of the bow that wasn't crafted to perfection, this item is also not fully perfect. Now, is the claw perfect? The answer is no. If you actually want to look at a perfect claw, we can go look at a perfect claw from last league, when we can reminisce about the good old days of Sentinel crafting and recombinating. And the claws were pretty nuts back in the day, and it probably still is the case. So this guy has the old 12 link claw, and you can see the 12 link claw is pretty much increased crit strikes, ruthless, multi-strike, crit damage, elemental damage with attacks. Socketed skills deal 40% more attack damage. So it's 12 links, and the crit strike links is relatively important. However, the crit strike link is definitely the least important, and the reason behind that is because it's not really a damage multiplier. All of these links are more or less damage multipliers. Ruthless is a damage multiplier. Multi-strike is also a damage multiplier. Crit damage, it's kind of like a damage multiplier because you get a lot of crit multi. LE damage is a more damage multiplier, and socketed skills deal 40% more attack damage is also a more damage multiplier. Now, crit strikes, however, you can easily clap your crit out if you decide to go Secrets of Suffering or something like that. It was actually a perfect if you want to use a Berserker. You can also probably cap your crit out if you're using a Mage Blood Flask. And the thing to know is that even though you don't have the socketed skills are supported by level 20 crit strikes, you do have a crit chance strength and int on the claw, which makes a pretty big difference in terms of actually raising the crit chance, because the crit chance is actually 7.5% instead of 6%. And if you actually look at the crit strikes gem, increased crit strikes, I think gives you roughly 2%, I think. So this gives you 1.5, and then this thing gives you 2%, but it does give you 117% crit chance. So this is pretty much all made up by having a Mage Blood Flask or a Diamond Flash right here, and it's a 0.5% crit difference. So out of all of the links that you could be missing, he actually got incredibly lucky that he got crit strikes. Now, crit damage would obviously, if he got crit damage instead of crit strikes instead of crit damage, it would be a lot worse. Now, another thing to know is that this claw actually have near perfect suffixes for lightning strike, as the person got T1 multi-strike instead of faster attacks. A lot of people, when they do try to craft this claw, they run into the issue that there's a lot of suffixes you could potentially choose from, and there's also pretty obvious which one's the best one. If you look at right here, a lot of people sometimes settle on level 20 faster attacks. And the problem with faster attacks is the same exact thing. It's not a damage multiplier. As I saw in the last video, every single thing about PoE is about scaling damage multipliers. And faster attacks is pretty much an increased attack speed. And a lot of builds already have a bunch of attack speed. So that's why he's really lucky that of the mods he hit for attack speed, he actually got multi-strike instead of faster attacks. And like I said, crit is not an issue if you do decide to invest into Brittle or Secrets of Suffering, or you can just invest a little bit more into crit in your build. Now, for the crafting method, we can pretty much see, and he did tell me exactly what he did, and I still can't really believe what he did. So first off, he had 2 claws, and one claw has socketed skills, deal 40% more attack damage, and then the other claw has socketed gems are supported by level 20 Ruthless. And the reason you want to do it like this is pretty much you have to have a Shaper base and an Elder base. So you usually want to take the weighting that's the lowest so that you have a higher chance of hitting the mod that is, that you're not Awakened Orbing together. So the only thing for Elder on the prefix is actually level 20 Ruthless. So right here, you can see here, he has a socketed skills, 40% more attack damage, and then he has socketed gems are supported by level 20 Ruthless. Now, he actually got really, really lucky. I think 2/3 of the time, roughly, it fills up the claw with another prefix. And for this time, the prefix that he got out of all of the things he could have chosen, and there's like 63,000 weight right here, and then 5,100 weight here, and then 11,600 weight. So by some miracle, so it's like 10,000 plus 15,000, there's like 80,000 weight roughly. So he chose socketed gems are level 20 elemental damage of attacks, which is a 500 weighting. And that's pretty crazy, right? It's a 1 in like 160 roughly to hit. And then it has to be, so he got extremely, extremely lucky on the prefixes. So he Awakened Orbited together. He had perfect prefixes, which is crazy. And not only that, he had a little problem is once he ends up with the perfect prefixes, he also had full suffixes. Now, in the past, if you had full suffixes with the claw, you could pretty much just do Reforge Key prefix and then you're done. But Chris, he added an extra layer of fun for people to craft. And this guy, he actually had a lot of fun probably while crafting it. He probably had a lot of heart attack moments, a lot of anguish, and a lot of joy, most importantly. So he ended up with full suffixes and he closed his eyes and he hit the annulment orb on the claw and he YOLO annulled off a suffix. Now, he could have YOLO annulled off a prefix. Now, this was pretty much a 50-50 because the claw was filled up. And he hit the annul on the suffix and now he's able to clear the suffixes. And the reason he's able to do that, so let me see if I can make it in the emulator real fast. We create a new item, one-handed weapon, claw, Imperial Claw. So at this point, it's a Shaper and Elder base, let's say. So at this point, he has a Shaper mod right here and right here. And I kind of want to experience what it feels like, that rush, right? So let's just say he filled up some random stuff on the suffixes. So at this point, the suffixes are bricked. So let's just say you Awaken Orb together and he actually got this. So now you can't really do anything. You can't Reforge Key pre and stuff. So you YOLO annul. And he got it, right? So I actually felt pretty good doing that myself, honestly. So let's go to the crafted mod. He crafts on, where is it? Prefixes cannot be changed. And then he scours it. And then here's where the magic happens. And this is where the vision, the magic actually occurs. So back in the Harvest Manifesto, they had a statement that has been pretty much memed upon by the community for ages. And this was when they completely removed harvest crafting. What they said was that we feel that the current state of harvest crafting runs against both of these important philosophies. We know that many players would love us to keep deterministic crafting in the game because it enables them to complete their items far more quickly than they say otherwise would. But then there would quickly be nothing left to achieve. It's actually kind of funny because this statement is completely not true. And kind of the reason why the game is dying because people are left with nothing to do because they can't actually craft endgame items. So this statement actually runs contrary to the philosophy they're actually trying to implement. And they write, it was an interesting experiment and we understand that some players will likely be attached to this level of incredibly easy crafting, but it's just not the path of exile we set out to make. So I should have probably read the Harvest Manifesto that they wrote and kind of knew that they would never ever add back Reforged Key prefix and suffix. And yeah, I mean, I guess I was just foolish. They actually wrote it clear as day about why they wouldn't actually add it back like a year or year and a half ago. And the sentiment is summed up by a member of our design team who recently said, we don't want to take away the feeling of closing your eyes and exalting an item, scared to see whether you ruined it or not. And this guy had the same exact feeling, right? Close your eyes and slam your item. It is fun. And he had a lot of fun. So he pretty much, at the emulator, he closed his eyes and slammed it twice. And I'm going to close my eyes, hit it twice. Wow, I actually got something. Well, that's actually pretty cool. I actually got something. I'm just gonna hit it one more time, right? Just for good measure. So no, it didn't work. But I actually got level 20 crit damage. So you can see it's actually not that hard to hit what's it called, influence mod on the suffix, pretty much because so you got multi-strike because it's a 1000 weight, so it is technically possible that you could maybe one day make this. But I mean, technically you could just keep doing this, right, and wipe the suffixes. So I guess maybe you could make it one day if you got really, really lucky. I'm not really sure. You pretty much have to hit 1% chances roughly in a row. And say like it's 2% maybe if you had the, what's it called? If you had like, it's 2 hitting 1% rolls back to back roughly. But it's not like incredibly crazy to hit just because it's 1000 weight. It's not like you're trying to hit an exalt on tyrannical. It's just you have to hit 2 back to back. So let's say if you actually settle with faster attacks or crit strikes or crit damage, and it's like hitting 2% back to back, then what is that, 0.04? So it's like 1 in 150. 50 times 50 is what? 200, 2,500. So you could probably do it if you kept trying this method like I'm showing you, like you exalted twice and then you wipe the suffixes until you eventually got it. And you can see you are getting crit strikes. And it probably take, I mean, you can calculate it out. It's just the EV of hitting 1% or 2% chances in a row. But what if this is a new way of crafting? You just scour, double exalt until you get what you want. So basically, he did the impossible, which is he double exalted on. But by doing it like this, you can actually never really break your suffixes. And yeah, well, I just messed up something. But that's pretty much how you do it. So he crafted it twice, he exalted it twice, and he got, luckily, multi-strike and crit damage. And I actually tried it a lot on the emulator, and I didn't get as lucky, so I kind of failed division. But yeah. Overall, I do think that this will probably be one of the most mirrored items in the league due to the popularity of Lightning Strike. Lightning Strike is a very, very popular min-max build that people do try to min-max. I do think that this claw actually got 70 or 80 copies last league. I'm not really 100% sure. I think Path of Math made one, and then Mr. Cop made one that was actually perfect. And this is pretty much one of the craziest just get lucky stories I've ever heard. The amount of luck this guy had to make the item is insane. Not only did he get lucky with the Awakener's Orb, he got lucky with the YOLO Annul, and then he got lucky with the 2 YOLO Exalts he did. So just luck all around. And that's pretty much the vision that Chris is trying to go for. And I can see it, and that it's fun if you hit it, but what about the other 1,000 people or 9,000 people or 1 million people playing the game, right? They're not getting lucky. They're not getting the progress. They don't have any checkpoints. They can't afford to craft. I mean, it is a nice story for that 1 or 2 people, but I do think that overall crafting is kind of a bad state right now. It's very, very prohibitively expensive for a lot of people and casuals, and crafting is pretty much devolved into get a fracture item, spam some essences. But hopefully this has brought some hope, and if you do decide to mirror it with the Lightning Strike, it is a very, very big upgrade, like roughly double damage. And I do think that this claw is good enough to be mirrored just because the last mod that he's missing is not a damage multiplier. But thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know down in the comments below if you had a crazy crafting experience like this. And I hope you find more mirrors, exalts, and mage bloods. And I guess divine orbs and me. And see you next time. Bye.